for the Community Development Block Grant, Disaster Recovery and Mitigation Programs. In this pre-bidding meeting, we are going to discuss the invitation for bids number CDBG-MIT-IFB-2025-01 for construction services under the Community Development Block Grant for Mitigation Program portfolio. I would like now to introduce the Puerto Rico Department Housing personnel. Along with me are Gustavo Pierre Negron, Procurement Official, Elisa Nieves Robles, Procurement Official, Catherine Chacon Ramirez, Procurement Official, Roberto Guadalupe of the Housing Division, and Erika Caban Morales of the Federal Compliance Division. Any information provided in this meeting does not change the terms and conditions established in the invitation for bids instructions. The meeting will be recorded and available on the CDBG-DR YouTube channel. Regarding the procurement manual and contractual requirements, all procurement process shall be conducted in accordance with the terms and conditions established in the procurement manual for the CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT programs to guarantee full and open competition and fair treatment for all persons or entities involved in each procurement process. The procurement manual is available on the CDBG-DR website as seen on the screen, incorporated by reference and made an integral part of this invitation for bids. Now, we have a presentation from Roberto Guadalupe from the Housing Division for an explanation of the scope of services in this process. Thank you.
We have the construction services for social interest housing mitigation. This is the invitation for bids, CDBG-MIT-IFB-2025-01. I'll be giving a brief presentation regarding the program, as well as the scope of work for each project. The Social Interest Housing Mitigation Program provides funding to eligible entities that are committed to providing social housing and working with diverse populations to ensure accessibility for individuals with a wide range of socioeconomic, physical, emotional, and other impairments. The Social Integrated SIHM program is intended to address the varying and localized needs for mitigation against a number of hazardous threats. The program's primary goal is to provide funding for eligible entities to expand existing housing options, increase the number of vulnerable persons served, and or bring existing housing to resilient, decent, safe, and sanitary conditions. PRDOH is issuing this IFB to procure construction services to support the implementation of the program. The selected bidders are expected to strengthen the program by providing their experience, technical knowledge, and expertise for the successful implementation of the projects. PRDOH anticipates awarding contracts for an initial term of 1 year with the option to extend the term upon mutual agreement. The period of performance, or POP, for each project is 6 months upon environmental clearance or PRDOH notice to proceed. One or more qualified bidders may be contracted as a result of this IFB. The general conditions. The selected bidders shall consider the uniform general conditions as part of the construction and contractor requirements for the implementation of the projects and included as an attachment to the scope of work and as the minimum performance requires of the project. Schedule. Consider the uniform general conditions will include details regarding the pre-construction meeting, project construction schedule, progress meetings, breakdown for payment, payment certifications, submittal log, project closeout, and others. The selected bidders will be responsible for documenting with photographs the existing conditions prior to initiation of work and implementing work without affecting ongoing operations or interfering with residents. Under no circumstance may contracted work alter, affect, or invalidate warranties of existing systems, equipment, materials, or any others. Warranty. The selected bidders shall warrant all its products for the period established in the drawings and technical specifications from the date of acceptance of the product. Warranty shall be in favor of or transferable to the project's entity. Valid warranty claims, defects, and other arising from work under contract shall be informed to PRDOH and its representatives and resolved within 2 weeks. Warranty periods, information, contacts, and any other may be provided upon substantial completion. Project closeout. The selected bidders will provide all the information required by the program as part of the project closeout requirements. These shall be elaborated and provided according to the necessary information for the PRDOH. This must be uploaded into the PRDOH Grant Management System, or GMS, of record and evaluated by the PRDOH and or its representatives. An architecture, engineer, and management firm has been contracted to provide design, management, and coordination among the stakeholders. The AE&M firm will be responsible for contract management administration, control, regulatory, and statutory compliance oversight. Designated inspectors have been contracted and will be responsible for all works as required by state, local requirements, and or requested by PRDOH. The selected bidders will be required to work in harmony with other stakeholders such as PRDOH, Grant Management, or GM, AE&M, designated inspector, their representatives, staff, and any other contractors retained by the PRDOH for the implementation of the program. Duties and responsibilities by the bidders. Obtain and evaluate copies of the 24 CFR Part 58 Environmental Review Record information to implement contracted work. Obtain and secure any applicable permit, endorsement, certifications, and any other requirements to initiate and complete contracted projects. Provide the corresponding permits and closeout permits for abatement, demolition, and construction activities when required. Perform asbestos-containing material, lead-based paint, materials abatement when required, and permits and permit closeout included. Provide the highest level of service to the project's beneficiaries, entities, program representatives, and PRDOH. Be responsible for project administration, production, and controls, including subcontractors management. All subcontractors performing abatement, demolition, and any type of work or services will be managed, administered, and controlled by the contracted entities, and provide the highest customer service standards. Projects have been divided geographically into 2 groups, Group 1 and Group 2. PRDOH, at its sole discretion, may award contracts based on the lowest cost to each group of projects. PRDOH may award the contract to the bidder offering the lowest total cost of each group, regardless of the individual project bid. All improvements must be in compliance with CDBG-MIT program guidelines and the working drawings and technical specifications included. Certain projects described in this IFB have been partially redacted to protect the confidentiality of the entity involved. Full access to the redacted materials will be granted only upon execution of the contract. This is the division of Groups 1 and 2. Group 1 is having 4 projects. Group 2 is having 3 projects. The application numbers are expressed as SIH-MIT 0004, Vivienda Permanente La Caridad de Cristo in Ponce, 0006, Albergue Cristo Pobre in Ponce, 0094, Guarabí Carib in Caguas, 00097, Guarabí Caguas in Caguas. And Group 2 have projects 5, 6, and 7, being 00021, Rehabilitation of Existing Structure, Site 1 in Vega Baja, 00021, Rehabilitation of Existing Structure, Site 2 in Vega Baja, and 00092, Rehabilitation of Existing Structure in Vega Alta. Regarding the different projects, I'm going to explain the specific scope for each project. In project number 1 of Group 1, the main components of the scope of work are listed below. water storage system, supply and install new cisterns as defined in the drawings and specifications, convert the existing water tank into a rainwater collection system. Gas storage system, supply and install new gas cylinders in accordance with the drawings and specifications, build a new gas storage area. PV system, supply and install the photovoltaic system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications. Conduct commissioning and testing of the photovoltaic system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17, 2011 and 19, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the Permiso Único Incidental from the Oficina de Gerencia de Permisos. This is for Project SIH-MIT-0004, Vivienda Permanente La Caridad del Cristo. The address is PR 511, kilometer 2.7 in Coto Laurel Award in Ponce. Group 1, Project 2, the main components of the scope of work are listed below. Water storage system, supply and install new cistern as defined in the drawings and specifications. Gas storage system, supply and install new gas cylinders in accordance with the drawings and specifications. Photovoltaic system, supply and install the photovoltaic system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wirings, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications. Conducts commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Regarding permitting and compliance, the selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA, and all work must comply with Act 17, 2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. This is Project SIH-MIT-0006, Albergue Cristo Pobre, located in 164 Calle Union in the urban center of Ponce. Group number 1, Project 3, the main components of the scope of work are listed below. Water storage system, supply and install new cisterns based on the drawings and specifications. Doors and windows, remove, dispose, and replace the existing doors and windows, supply and install new windows and doors in compliance with the drawings and specifications, and prepare and paint all the exteriors and interior walls. Roof improvements. Improve roof framing in compliance with the drawings and specifications. Build new roof in compliance with the drawings and specifications. PV system, supply and install the PV system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and technical specifications. Conduct commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17, 2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. This is Project SIH-MIT-00094, Guarabí, Cari, located in Calle Herbert Hoover in the urbanization Jose Mercado in Caguas. Group 1, Project number 4, the main components of the scope of work are listed below. Water storage system, supply and install new cistern based on the drawing specifications. Retaining wall, build a new retaining wall in compliance with the drawings and specifications. Photovoltaic system, supply and install the photovoltaic system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications, and conduct commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17, 2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the Permiso Único Incidental from the Oficina de Gerencia de Permisos. This is Project SIH-MIT-00097, Guarabí, Caguas, located in PR 763, kilometer 6, in the Borinquen Ward in Caguas. Now we are going to explain Group 2 scope of works. This is for projects 5 and 6. The projects at these two sites are located in the municipality of Vega Baja, aims to provide the buildings wind resistant by replacing doors and windows and its energy resiliency by implementing a new PV system. Project number 5, the main components of the scope of work are listed below. Doors and windows. Remove, dispose, and replace the existing doors and windows. Supply and install new doors and windows in compliance with the drawings and specifications. Prepare and paint all the exterior and interior walls. Photovoltaic system. Supply and install the PV system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications. Conduct commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance, the selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17/2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the permiso único incidental from the Oficina de Gerencia de Permisos. Asbestos mitigation. The selected bidder is responsible for the permitting, removal, and disposal of 1,900 square feet of asbestos in the roof membrane, as well as any closing of permitting documents related to the mitigation. Project 6, doors and windows. Remove, dispose, and replace the existing doors and windows. Supply and install new doors and windows in compliance with the drawings and specifications. Prepare and paint all the exteriors and interior walls. PV system. Supply and install the PV system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications. Conduct commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance, the selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17/2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and any other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. And group number 2, project 7, SIH-MIT 00092, rehabilitation of restriction structures in Vega Alta. The main components of the scope of work are listed below. Water storage system. Supply and install new cisterns based on the drawings and specifications. Retaining wall. Build a new retaining wall in compliance with the drawings and specifications. PV system. Supply and install the PV system, including all necessary components such as inverters, disconnect switches, and wiring, all in accordance with the drawings and specifications. And conduct commissioning and testing of the PV system to ensure optimal performance. Permitting and compliance, the selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the interconnection approval with LUMA. All work must comply with Act 17/2019, Ley de Política Pública Energética de Puerto Rico, and other relevant federal, state, and local regulations. The selected bidder is responsible for obtaining the permiso único incidental from the Oficina de Gerencia de Permisos. The owner's special considerations. The IFP will include an attachment for each project with specific requirements that the selected bidder must adhere to throughout the duration of the project. If project has special considerations that the contractor must comply with regards to the following: security, property, time, residence, and general considerations. And the order of precedence of contractual documents in the event of any conflict, discrepancy, or inconsistency among the various documents comprising this contract. The cost form for groups 1 and 2. Since projects are divided into two groups of projects, let's see the group 1 and group 2, PRDOH at its sole discretion may award contracts based on the lowest cost to each group of projects. For clarity, PRDOH may award the contract to the bidder offering the lowest total cost of each group, regardless of the individual project bids. The bidders will have then the following options. Group 1 bidder, include cost for bid items within this group. Group 2 bidder, include cost for bid items within this group. Or group 1 and 2 bidder, include cost for bid items for both groups. Regardless of the total selected bid options, bidders must complete the total bid with the sum of the bid projects. Additionally, to the cost provided in this cost form, bidders must complete the project details cost form of each bid item, respectively. This shall include the cost to all line items as described in each document. For Group 1, consists of 4 projects in total. Bid items 1 and 2 are in the municipality of Ponce. Bid items 3 and 4 are in the municipality of Caguas. Bidders that select to bid in Group 1 must provide costs on all items. For Group 2, consisting of 3 projects in total, bid items 5 and 6 are in the municipality of Vega Baja. Bid item 7 is in the municipality of Vega Alta, and bidders that select to bid in Group 2 must provide costs on all items. Alternatively, bidders that select to bid on Group 1 and 2 may do so, providing costs to all bid items. The cost forms. Bidders must complete a cost form for each project, must provide a cost for each of the bid items included in the cost form. In the case of discrepancies between the quantities listed in the provided tables and the quantities shown in the working drawings and specifications, the quantities in the working drawings and specifications shall take precedence. All equipment to be submitted within the bid must comply with the specifications included in the scope of work and working drawings and technical specifications. All equipment offered as part of the bid is subject to the warrant conditions set forth in the scope of work and the working drawings and technical specifications. Pricing must include all expenses, including but not limited to incidental overhead, profit, taxes, handling, and delivery costs, as well as any other administrative costs associated with the goods and services. 4. The selected bidder must visit the project to ensure that the conditions, dimensions, and details set forth in the project scope, drawings, and its attachments are correct. If visible, different conditions are found, it is the bidder's responsibility to provide any materials and/or perform any additional tasks required by the work. The intent of the scope of work and the working drawings and technical specifications is to achieve a complete, finished, and ready-to-operate project. No advance payments will be disbursed for this work. This includes, but it is not limited to, purchase any of materials on site, off-site, and/or partially completed work. In case of discrepancies between the pricing detail table and the pricing summary table, then the sum of the pricing detail items shall govern. Quantities provided shall be verified by bidders. In case of discrepancies between the quantities in the tables provided and the working drawings and technical specifications, then the working drawings and technical specifications shall govern. Award will be to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. This is an example of a cost form. In this case, is for bid item number 7. You will see it is a very detailed in terms of item, description, quantity, unit, and you will be providing the unit price and the total for each line item. The IFB includes a separate cost form for each rehabilitation project, detailing specific bid items unique to each project. If any questions, please submit in writing per IFB instructions. And remember, this is for informational purposes only. This presentation does not modify any of the terms, conditions, and requirements set forth in the IFB. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Good morning. My name is Elisa Nieves Robles, and I will be discussing the acquisition of the IFB documents, the important dates for this IFB, and the submission of inquiries and addenda. IFB documents acquisition. The IFB documents are available for download on the CDBG-DR website, as presented on the screen. Important dates for this IFB are the following. Event, please submit questions and requests for clarifications on or before October 9, 2025 at 4 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. Responses to questions and requests for clarifications will be published on October 17, 2025. Bid due date, November 7. 2025 at 12 p.m. Request invitation to virtual public bid opening via email November 7, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. and the virtual public bid opening November 7, 2025 at 3 p.m. Submission of inquiries and addenda. All bidders must submit all inquiries through the form for submission of inquiries attachment 4 of the IFB and send them to the CDBG-DR MIT's Procurement Division email address on or before October 9, 2025 at 4 p.m. Responses to all bidders' questions will be provided through an addenda and will be posted on the CDBG-DR website. All documents related to this acquisition process, including the addenda issued by the Puerto Rico Department of Housing, are and will be available for download on the CDBG-DR website. All bidders are responsible for monitoring the CDBG-DR website for any issued addenda in this IFB.
Thank you, Elisa. Good morning. My name is Catherine Chacon, and I will explain how to submit bids, the virtual bid opening, and the evaluation criteria for this IFB. Regarding the submission of bids, bids must be submitted physically by the due date indicated in the schedule provided in Section 4.3 of the IFB instructions. Late submissions will not be accepted under any circumstances. Bidders must submit their responses in a sealed envelope clearly labeled with the bidder's name, contact information, and the IFB number at the center of the envelope. The envelope must contain all documents required under Exhibit A, Bid Checklist. The envelope must contain the following original printed documents: Exhibit A, Bid Checklist; Exhibit B, Statement of the Bidder; Exhibit C, Certifications; Exhibit H, Cost Forms. Additionally, an electronic copy of the bid and a redacted copy in PDF format must be submitted on a universal serial bus flash drive. As stated for the bid opening, if you are interested in attending the virtual opening, you must send an email to cdbg-DR-procurement@vivienda.pr.gov no later than November 7, 2025. Before 2:30 p.m., there will be no award announcement during the bid opening. As stated, the evaluation criteria for this sealed bid is the following. A, mandatory requirements. We must emphasize that this bid requires mandatory requirements which will be rated as pass or fail. Failure to comply with the mandatory requirements of this bid will result in the disqualification of the bidder. To learn more about these mandatory requirements, we urge you to refer to Section 6 of the bid instructions. Some of these mandatory requirements include the following. The bid submission date is November 7, 2025 by 12 noon. The bidder identification shall include its legal name, establishment date, employer identification number, among others. Bidders must demonstrate their capacity to provide services. All organizational documents should be submitted. As stated in Section 6.8, financial requirements will be evaluated according to Section 6.8 of the auction instructions. Important, you must submit all required financial information for your bid to be considered. All required certifications and scope of work requirements should be presented. The information submitted will allow for a rating of pass or fail after an evaluation process by the PRDOH. Cost proposal requirements. The price form will be submitted by the bidders using Exhibit H, titled Cost Form. It is important to emphasize that the PRDOH may award the contract to the bidder offering the lowest total cost for each group, regardless of the individual project bid. Now I leave you with Gustavo. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. My name is Gustavo Pierre, and next I will explain the bid evaluation selection and award, and the system for award management registration requirements. After the bid opening, the CDBG-DR CDBG-DR and MIT Procurement Division will evaluate each bid based on the mandatory requirement explained in Section 6 and 7 of the instructions. The evaluation of the mandatory requirements will determine the responsible and responsive bidders who are capable of fulfilling the required goods and services. If a bidder is deemed responsible and responsive, the cost form will then be evaluated. The Procurement Division will also evaluate the service specifications submitted by the bidders in their bids to ensure they comply with the specifications established in the scope of work. This evaluation at the discretion of the Procurement Division of the Department of Housing may be conducted by the user area within the Department of Housing that requested this procurement process. If the bid is awarded, it will be granted to the responsible bidder who submits the responsive bid with a lower cost. The award will be made solely based on fair and reasonable prices. The CDBG-DR and MIT Procurement Division will recommend the award to the Department of Housing Bid Board. The bid board will be issued by this same board. The PRDOH reserves the right to award contracts to multiple bidders under this solicitation. The number of awards will be determined based on the evaluation of bids and the PRDOH needs. Bidders should submit their bids with this understanding. SAM registration. Bidders and first-tier subcontractors must be registered in the System for Award Management, also known as SAM, at the time of the proposal submission or initiate the registration process immediately after submitting their proposal and obtain a unique entity identifier. For more information about the System for Award Management, please visit the SAM website. There is no fee to create, renew, or update your organization's information in SAM. Awards will only be issued to entities that are authorized and not ineligible for contract award due to suspension, debarment, or limited denial of participation imposed by HUD. Now we will leave you with Erica Caban Morales from the Federal Compliance Division, who will explain the federal compliance requirements.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This presentation has been prepared in English. However, if a Spanish version is required, please submit the request following the procurement protocols on behalf of the Federal Compliance and Recipient Management Team from the Puerto Rico Department of Housing. We will present on compliance and labor standard requirements. Today's agenda includes an overview of compliance and roles and responsibilities, a review of the tools available on our website, and a discussion on documenting efforts and reporting requirements. The procurement package includes language that provides preference to proponents certified as Section 3 businesses or as a minority or women-owned business. Please remember to consult the references and templates available. Proponents seeking to obtain preference must submit their self-certification along with evidence demonstrating how they qualify as a Section 3 business. The PRDOH provides a template on its website. Proponents seeking MWBE preference must submit a copy of their certification and demonstrate their status. Submitting certificates must include the issuance and expiration dates and must indicate that they are currently active. The work to be performed under the contract resulting from this RFP may be subject to the requirements of Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 as amended. Section 3 is intended to foster local economic development, strengthen neighborhood economies, and support individual self-sufficiency. It is the policy of PRDOH to require its recipients, contractors, subcontractors, and the subcontractors of the recipients to provide, to the greatest extent feasible, training and equal employment opportunities to low and very low income individuals, particularly to recipients of government housing assistance and residents of communities where federal funds are expended. The Department of Housing provides a Section 3 policy guide on its website in both English and Spanish. Contractors are required to review the guide and implement the applicable activities as necessary. In addition, contractors are responsible for ensuring that their subcontractors comply with the policy and that established benchmarks are met. For Section 3 projects, 24 CFR 75 establishes the following benchmarks. 25% of total labor hours on the project should be performed by Section 3 workers. 5% of total labor hours should be performed by targeted Section 3 workers. This document template enables contractors and subrecipients to outline their strategies for achieving Section 3 hiring, training, and contracting goals. A Section 3 contractor plan template is available on the PRDOH website in both English and Spanish. This tool assists in identifying new hiring and subcontracting needs, planning outreach efforts, and supporting coordinators in managing daily activities. Additionally, it helps define compliance procedures and provides guidance on reporting requirements. These document templates help individuals identify if they meet the requirements to be considered a Section 3 worker or targeted worker. Contractors and subrecipients must make efforts to complete self-certification forms as part of their contracting and purchasing procedures, thereby fulfilling their Section 3 business identification commitment. Businesses identified as Section 3 will be included in a database used to disseminate contracting and purchasing opportunities. The work to be performed under the contract resulting from this RFP shall be subject to the regulations set forth in the CFR 200.321. This regulation requires the non-federal entity to take necessary steps to ensure that, when possible, all subrecipients, contractors, subcontractors, subrecipients, contractors, subcontractors, and or developers funded with CDBG-DR or CDBG mitigation funds hire or provide economic opportunities to small and minority firms, women-owned business enterprises, and labor surplus area firms. Consistent with the executive orders number 11625, 12138, and 12432, non-federal entities shall make every feasible effort to ensure that small businesses, minority-owned business enterprises, such as MBE, WBEs, and labor surplus area business participate in contracting. The PRDOH provides an MWBE policy on its website in both English and Spanish. Contractors are required to review the guide and implement the applicable activities as necessary. In addition, contractors are responsible for ensuring that their subcontractors comply with the regulation and that established benchmarks are met. The MWB policy guide will identify that there are goals which apply to professional services, purchasing supplies, and construction contracting. There is a total minimum participation goal, which are 10% for women-owned businesses and 10% for minority-owned businesses. Contractors are expected to perform good faith efforts or contracting, subcontracting, and purchasing opportunities of $10,000 or more during the life of the contract. This tool assists in let's look at the MWB utilization plan. This tool assists in compiling data for subcontracting purposes. It helps you identify potential needs. It supports discussions on creating supplier and contractor listings while also building awareness of contract goals and utilization tracking. The plan template is available on our website and can be completed either in English or in Spanish. For the definitions of MWB businesses, MBE is defined as a business that is 51% or more owned, operated, and controlled on a daily basis by one or more U.S. citizens of ethnic minority and or gender, and or military classifications and or veterans. WBE is defined as business that is at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women must be a U.S. citizen or legal resident aliens whose business formation and principal place of business are in the U.S. or its territories, and whose management and daily operations are controlled by women. When we talk about certified minority or women-owned businesses, we are referring to those who have filed applications with federal entities such as SBA and others that you see here on the slide. Businesses who are certified can provide proof of completing an application process to be officially recognized as a certified minority or women-owned business. If you are registered as an MWBE, you should provide your valid certificate or other evidence in response to this RFP. As part of its obligations to the PRDOH, the contractor or recipient must conduct compliance efforts during the term of the agreement or contract, which are reporting using the quarterly report and template to document efforts. Each organization is responsible for maintaining and preserving documents in accordance with its policy on document management, administration, and accessibility. The objective of this document is to facilitate the compilation of all arrangements and procedures related to the Section 3 and MWBE as applicable. These efforts are carried out by recipients and contractors each quarter. The PRDOH has established a quarterly report available on the website for recipients and contractors to download, complete, and submit. This form serves as the official method for reporting quarterly compliance activities and efforts related to Section 3, MWBE, and FHEO regulations. Also, recipients and contractors are expected to maintain a system for collecting up-to-date information to complete this report accurately. PRDOH's quarterly report captures Section 3 data for 24 CFR 135, 24 CFR 75, and efforts performed, MWBE data for contracting MBEs, contracting WBEs, and efforts performed, FHEO data from limited English proficiency and compliance with equal employment opportunity commissions. PRDOH requires quarterly reports from all contractors to be submitted on April 5th, July 5th, October 5th, and January 5th. Regarding FHEO, your RFP package also includes a model contract which outlines the area of compliance related to fair housing and equal opportunity. Contractors are responsible for ensuring compliance with federal civil rights and fair housing requirements throughout their own operations, as well as those of their subcontractors and partners, making certain that all necessary efforts are being implemented. The Fair Housing Act and Section 109 and 504 prohibit discrimination against protected classes. The Fair Housing Act is a key component of federal civil rights law, enacting to prevent discrimination in housing. A variety of executive orders, laws, and statutes govern non-discrimination against protected classes, ensuring equal opportunity for individuals in accessing federal funded programs. Equal opportunity for protected classes is upheld through these federal laws and executive orders. PRDOH has published policy documents addressing FHEO as well as language access plan for all CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT programs and has made it available in both English and Spanish. These policies must be implemented by contractors and the recipients. As a HUD funding recipient, PRDOH must ensure that its programs affirmative further access to fair housing. The CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT program will take meaningful action to combat discrimination, overcome segregation, promote fair housing choice, and foster inclusive communities. All federal funding programs must ensure that policies do not deny access to participation, benefits, or employment opportunities. These requirements are enforced by HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity. Fair housing and equal opportunity, reasonable accommodations are adjustments to a program, policy, practice, or service that afford individuals with disabilities equal access to the program's benefits. Section 504 requires federally funded programs provide requested RMs at the cost of the program to the extent that are reasonable and address a verified disability-related need. Contractors that have 50 employees or more are required to have a 504 coordinator. The CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT reasonable accommodations policy provides requirements and guidance for evaluating these requests. PRDOH supports programs in the handling and evaluations of these requests. Limited English proficiency, LEP, refers to persons' limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English. Due to Puerto Rico's high Spanish-speaking population, all entities and contractors using the CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funds must seek to ensure both that a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English or Spanish will not place them at a disadvantage in the participation of the programs. Occupational Safety and Health, OSH. Construction projects funded by CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT must adhere to OSHA and PROSHA regulations to ensure worker safety in accordance with 29 CFR 1926. The PRDOH recipients and project contractors are responsible for ensuring that their subcontractors implement OSHA, PROSHA, and CDBG-DR-MIT OSH policy requirements. Contractors awarded these contracts are accountable for executing the necessary safety measures, taking corrective actions, and maintaining compliance with OSHA reporting standards. PRDOH has published the Occupational Safety and Health Policy for all CDBG-DR mitigation programs in both English and Spanish. Contractors and recipients are expected to familiarize themselves with the policy and implement the necessary measures to ensure compliance. CDBG-DR mitigations, the recipients and contractors must comply with policy implementation, implementing PRDOH CDBG-DR MIT OSH policy guidelines across all relevant construction projects, integrating safety protocols into daily operations, and ensuring adherence to OSHA standards, compliance assurance, ensuring compliance with OSHA regulations 25 CFR 1926 and PRDOH safety requirements, conducting regular safety inspections, and promptly addressing non-compliance issues. CDBG-DR mitigations, the recipients and contractors must comply with subcontractor management, implementing PRDOH CDBG-DR mitigation OSH policy guidelines across all relevant construction projects, integrating safety protocols into daily operations, ensuring adherence to OSHA standards, documentation and reporting, maintaining proper documentation of safety measures, incidents, and corrective actions, submitting required safety reports to PRDOH as stipulated by the OSH policy. Documenting and reporting. Smartsheet is a vital tool for documenting and reporting OSH-related information as they ensure all safety data is consistently tracked, easily accessible, and can quickly communicate to stakeholders. This supports transparency, timely corrective actions, and ongoing monitoring, helping to maintain high safety standards across all construction projects. CDBG-DR mitigation recipients and contractors must comply with training and education, providing ongoing safety training and education to employees and subcontractors, conducting safety orientation and toolbox talks, ensuring workers are informed about task-specific hazards and safety measures. OSH Monthly Roundtable. The monthly OSH Roundtable with contractors and construction managers is crucial for fostering open communication, addressing safety concerns, and ensuring alignment on OSH policies. It provides a platform for discussing incidents, sharing best practices, and coordinating efforts to enhance safety compliance across all projects, ultimately leading to a safer work environment and improved project outcomes. David Bacon and related acts. This law and requirement generally applies to federally funded or assisted programs that are valued at more than $2,000. Contracts for the following types of work on public buildings or public works include construction, alteration and repair, and even painting and decorating. Requires payment of prevailing wages as determined by the Department of Labor. It provides a fair opportunity to compete in the building programs funded by federal government. It prevents contractors from bidding below and areas privileged wages. Most construction projects funded by CDBG-DR, CDBG-MIT funds must comply with DEBRA requirements to ensure that laborers and mechanics are paid prevailing wages. This includes overtime for the work performed on these federal funded projects. Contractors awarded contracts with these federal funds are responsible for understanding and complying with DEBRA requirements. PRDOH and its recipients are responsible for oversight. This includes reviewing payroll and other records related to work performed using these federal funds for construction projects and ensure compliance with requirements. PRDOH has published the Davis-Bacon Policy Guide, which is available in both English and Spanish. The Department of Housing, along with the recipient contractors, must implement and comply with these policies whenever it is applicable. Aware that the use of CDBG-MIT funds is monitored by the DOL and HUD, maximum cooperation from all the recipients and contractors is required. In this regard, compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act and related acts, DEBRA, involves but is not limited to cooperating to ensure that PRDOH complies with the Davis-Bacon and labor standards, agency contractor guide, and contractor addendum by performing the actions outlined by the federal agency, cooperating to ensure PRDOH complies with the U.S. Department of Housing Handbook 1344.1, Review 3, by diligently responding to department's requirements and adheres to this guide. In this presentation, we will also discuss applicability of these federal labor standards, Housing and Community Development Act 29 CFR 5, Davis-Bacon Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, and Copeland Anti-Kickback Act. The Contractor Work Hours and Safety Standard Acts, known as CWHSSA, states that workers should not work more than 40 hours a week unless they are being compensated overtime, and that projects must complete with certain safety standards. The Copeland Anti-Kickback Act requires that there's be payment of wages at least once a week, and it only speaks and permissible payroll deductions being allowed. The Fair Labor Standards Act sets the federal minimum wages and additional overtime requirements. The following slide discusses the metaphases that are around within the construction project. There are activities that happen during procurement, during the pre-bid meeting, during the pre-construction meeting, during a contract signing, during on-site interviews, collecting and reviewing certified payrolls, notifying prime contractors, and when the project finishes, producing the project closeout letter, and finally, the ongoing reporting and record keeping. Incorporating the wage determination, labor standards provisions, and HUD Form 4010 into your bid documents. Hold a pre-bid meeting to provide technical assistance to DEBRA and prior to awarding the contract. Incorporate prevailing and federal wage determination HUD Form 4010 and contract labor law language. Hold a pre-construction meeting to provide technical assistance to your contractors on DEBRA. Once construction begins, conduct job sites, visit, and employee interview using HUD Form 11. Carefully review weekly certified payroll reports and supporting documentation to the duration of the project. Issue due diligence notifications to the prime contractors describing the deficiencies to be remedied. Identify and correct all deficiencies before billing PRDOH for CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT reimbursement. Issue a letter of authorization from DEBRA to the prime contractor prior to project closure. Retain records for 6 years in accordance with the Housing Records Retention Policy, complete biannual reporting. The HUD 4010 form includes various clauses and important language for prime contractors and any subcontractors working on a federally funded project. Contractors must include this form with all subcontracting tiers to ensure compliance with Davis-Bacon and related acts. It is important to note that depending on your role, it may be necessary for you to perform, including but not limited to, the following actions: submission of complete and mathematically accurate certified payrolls, review of the accuracy of the certified payrolls, conducting field interviews using the federal HUD 11 form, including 1, the HUD 4010 form, 2, vocabulary related to the DBRA compliance, and 3, the applicable wage determination in contracts and subcontracts. Notifying construction activity by submitting the HUD 4710 report to the federal agency and a copy of housing through our website. Participating in training provided by the Federal Compliance Division on prevailing wages. Contractor penalty and consequences for noncompliance. The Department of Housing discusses penalties and consequences as part of the policy. These such actions may include having contract payments withheld insufficient amounts to satisfy unpaid wages and liquidated damages that result from violations. You could also be subject to debarment from future contracts for up to 3 years and other potential consequences. We wish to clarify that compliance with federal legislation does not exempt you from complying with applicable state legislation regarding prevailing wages, including but not limited to Executive Order 2022-014 or Law 47-2021, better known as the Minimum Wage Act. Thank you for your attention.
I would like now to thank the Housing Division, the Federal Compliance Division, and our team at the Compliance Division, and everyone for participating in this pre-bid meeting. We appreciate your time. If you have any questions or inquiries, please fill out the form for submission of inquiries, attachment 4, and send it to the email as seen on the screen. We wish you a great day. Thank you.